Today we are doing Module 3, Lesson 1. Now this is the start of our new module. Lesson 1 is a review lesson from 4th grade. It's all based on review standards. Now our objective in Lesson 1 is to make equivalent fractions with the number line, the area model, and numbers. So we're going to use the number line. Going to use the area model or the rectangular fraction models, and we're going to show it through numbers, and that's this right here. So we have area model. No, this is number line. Sorry about that. So number line, area model, and numbers. So let's start with number 1. Use the folded paper strip to mark points 0 and 1 above the number line, and 0/3, 1/3, 2/3, and 3/8 below it. So let's move some of this out of our way. So we're going to put our ticks on the end of the number line. So we're going to start with 0 and we're going to end with 1. Now we put that above the number line. And then we're going to put this below it. So we need to partition this into thirds. So we need to have 3 groups or 3 units down here. So I need 3 little, I need 2 ticks, and that gives me 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Yeah, so here's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. I wish they would have spaced this out a little more. It does get in a little. They ask you to write underneath it, but they don't give you much room. And then it also said, so we have 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. Now we also need to have 0/3. And when talking to the kids, we want to emphasize that we know 0/3 will go with 0 because we have none of the parts. We have nothing, so we have 0/3. Then 1/3, 2/3, and we know 3/3 because we know 3/3 and 1 are equal, because we have all of the whole. So when we have all of the whole, we have the same thing as 1. All right, so that was easy. So let's see. Draw 2 vertical lines to break each rectangle into thirds. So we're going to break each rectangle into thirds. Now they don't have to be perfect. We just want to make sure that we can work with it. Partition with horizontal lines to show equivalent fractions. Use multiplication to show the change in units. So that is what we did here. This is the numbers, and this is how we are showing how we changed our units. So right now we're in thirds. Our unit is thirds. So we started with thirds. Let's see, did it tell us to shade? Shade the left third of each. So we're going to go ahead and shade the left third. Now we don't want to make it dark. We don't want to do too much, because we do want to be able to see our lines when we partition horizontally. So this down here says we're going to change it into, we're just going to split it in half. So we're going to partition it with 1 line. Well, before I do that, let me just make sure we go over this real quick. This is something the students struggled on today. So right now we have 3 groups, right? We have 3 groups. We have 1 group, 2 group, and 3 groups. If I shade 1 group, I have 1 group shaded. Well, how much do I have total? I have 3 groups. So that's how we get the 1/3. So I have 1 group shaded, but there's 3 groups in total, including the shaded. So now, this is what the students were struggling on. Now I have how many groups? I still have 1 group, because we're keeping those original groups. I still have 1 group, which is right here. 1 group. But now how much do I have in the group? So I have 1 group of 2. So here's 1, 2. It looks like an area model. So 1, 2. And then what do I have in total? Well, I still have 3 groups. So 1, 2, 3. But again, I have 2 in each group. So I have 3 times 2. That's where I get the 2/6. So a lot of the kids are wanting to jump, well, there's 6 groups. Well, we're sticking with the original. We're trying to show equivalence to thirds. So if we're showing equivalence to thirds, we need to say that we have 3 groups. So let's show that in the next one. So we're just going to keep moving on with them. So the first one we split our thirds in half and got 6. So let's split our thirds into thirds. So we're going to split it one more time. So we're going to partition it one more time. So we started with one group of 3. And now we have we started with one group and 3 groups total. Sorry about that. This is one group, 3 groups total. But now we have one group with one group of 3. And then we have 3 groups of 3 now. So that's 3 knights. And keep on going. So we're going to partition it one more time here. We started with one group shaded, 3 groups total, so 1/3. And that is equivalent to now we have one group of 4. So one group of 4. And then all together we have 3 groups of 4. So this is kind of like having a array as well. So we had 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So then in one column we had one group of 4, and then all together we had 3 groups of 4. All right, and then that would equal 4 12ths. And then finally we're going to partition it just one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, we started with one group, and we had 3 groups in total. That equals one group of 5 now, and 3 groups of 5 now. And if you've noticed on these, they're all multiplied by the same amount of groups, right? They're all multiplied by the same amount of groups. We start with one group, and we multiply it by 5 here. And we are also going to have, we started with 3 groups, and now we're multiplying by 3 groups of 5. And then I'm going to write this down here. We have 5 groups of 15. So all of these numbers are equivalent to 1/3. So we can write over here 1/3. We can have, let me do these in different colors. We also have 3 9ths, 4 12ths, and then 5 15ths. Those are all equivalent to 1/3. And we're able to put those all on the number line. Let's go to the next problem. Oh, did I go too far? I think I did. All right, this one's asking the same question. Now we're using force. So we're going to start with 0 and 1 above the number line. We're going to put down 0 force because we know if we have 0 groups, we have nothing. And then we know 4 force is over here because we have 4 groups of 4, so we have all of it. We have a whole. Going to partition it into force. 3 ticks. 1/4, 2 force, 3 force, and 4 force. Use the folded paper strip to mark. Follow the same pattern as problem number 1, but with force. So we're going to do the same down here. We're going to partition these into force. We're going to shade the first one. We're going to explain with numbers that 1/4 equals, and that's going to be for all of these. All right, so we're going to start by partitioning it horizontally once. So we originally had one group shaded and 4 groups total. So now we have one group of 2 shaded and 4 groups of 2 total. So that's 2 8ths. Okay, again, this one right here, we have one group of 4 shaded. So one group shaded, 4 groups in total. And we're going to partition this one with 2 lines this time. So now we have one group of 3 and 4 groups of 3 total. All right, just keep moving down the line. This one again, partition 3 ways. So we're just adding one more line each time. Started with one group shaded. Now I have one group of 4 shaded and 4 groups of 4 total. 4/16. And then finally, we're just going to do 4 lines. We're adding one more line. Started with one group shaded, but now I have one group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded and 4 groups of 5 shaded. Again, we notice that all of these that we're multiplying by are the same number. So what we're noticing is that, okay, all we have to do to find an equivalent fraction of our starting number is just multiply them by a numerator and denominator of the same number. So 2 over 2, 3 over 3, 4 over 4, 5 over 5, 5/5, 4/4. And if they notice, that's just multiplying it by a whole. A whole is, we have all the parts in our groups, all right? Or all the groups in our groups, or all the units in our units. So 5/5 equals 5/20. Oh, wait, 5/25. Got a little ahead of myself right there. 5/25. Now, students don't exactly have to know this because we do not go past the... No, I was right, 5/20. What am I doing? I was looking at the 5 times 5. Tell the students all the time, we got to check our work. I'm one of them, and I tell them all the time I have to go back and check my work. So I don't want them to think that it's just them that have to check their work. All right, so we have 5/20. And again, let's go over here and write down over 1/4, 2/8, 3/12. Sorry about that. 4/16. And finally, 5/20. 5/20. All right, let's look at the next one. Make sure I switched enough. 4/5. Ooh, so this one's a little different. So we're starting, again, we're going to go through fifths. So we have 1 above the number line. Oh, 0 above the number line, 1 above the number line. 0/5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't partition those out too well. 5/5, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. All right, but now we're going to say we're going to 4/5. So we have this much. Well, let's partition it into fifths, which is a couple more lines than normal. And then we're going to shade 4/5, which is a little more than we normally do. So now we have 4 groups shaded, and we have 5 groups total. So if I partition this like this, I still have 4 groups, but what do I have in each group? Well, I have 4 groups of 1, 2. 4 groups of 2. And now I have 5 groups of 2. So that would equal 8/10. Again, numerator and denominator is being multiplied by the same amount of groups. So that's a little hint on an easier way to do this. We're going to keep working it this way. So now I still started with 4 groups, 5 groups total. But how many groups do I have? What do I have in each group? So I have in my one group, 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3. And now we have 5 total groups of 3. 12/15. 1, 2, 3. 4 groups started with, shaded, 5 groups total, equals 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 groups of 4, 5 groups of 4, 16/20. And 1, 2, 3, 4. I started with 4 groups of 5. And now I have 4 groups of 5 and 5 groups of 5. So I have 20/25. Now, the Florida standards state that we shouldn't go past 20 in our denominator. We did go past 20 in our denominator here. It's okay. Just can't assess them on it. So let's go ahead and write our equivalent fractions underneath 4/5. So we have 8/10, 12/15, 16/20, and finally 20/25. All right, let's go to that last problem. Typically, I don't do all the problems, but I think I'm going to start. I really need the kids to work through all of them, and just putting the answer up there. Sometimes the kids they struggle. So I want to make sure they're working on all of them. Continue the process and model 2 equivalent fractions for 9/8. Ooh, estimate to mark the points on the number line. So 9/8. So students might be able to do this, but they might not. So if we have 9/8, that means that we have more. So we have 9/8. Well, we all know that that's bigger than 1 because 8/8 equals 1. So let's go ahead and put our numbers on the number line. So we have 0, 1, and 2. Well, we're looking at 8, so let's go ahead and mark these on 8s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 8, 2 8s, 3 8s, 4 8s, 5 8s, 6 8s, 7 8s, 8 8s, 8 8s, 9 8s, 10. All right, so we had on the number line, and we are going all the way to 9 8s. So we estimated to mark the points on the number line. Well, like I said, we knew we were just going in 8s, and we knew that 9 was more than 8, so we stopped at 9 8 on the number line. Let's go ahead and partition our box in the 8s. 1, 2, 3. And again, I wish they gave us bigger boxes because it's going to be hard for me to fit 8s into these boxes. So I tell the kids all the time, try to make it even, but it's pretty hard when we get to 9 8s. So then we have one whole thing shaded and one shaded over here. One whole thing shaded and one shaded over here. Well, the nice thing is they were being a little nice to us, and they were only making us do it twice this time. So we started with 9 groups of 8 shaded. Now, we say 8 still shaded because in our whole, which is just one of these, we still only have 8 groups. So in 2 holes, we have 8 groups in each hole. So that's where we're staying at. Let's go ahead and show what we have. So we have 9 groups. Again, 9 groups shaded. And how many do we have in each? How many groups do we have in a hole? We only have 8 groups in a hole. Well, let's go ahead and partition it horizontally. So we went from 9 groups shaded to 9 groups of 2 shaded. So we went from 8 groups in a hole to 8 groups of 2 in a hole. So now I have 18 16ths, which we can all agree if we were to count them, we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 now. 16 parts, and we have 18 parts shaded. So let's look over here. We have 9 parts, 9 groups shaded, and in a whole we only have 8 groups. Now, this is a little confusing, but in a whole we only have 8 groups. Altogether, they're partitioned into 8, so that's what we need to try to remember. They're partitioned, it's like cutting a pizza into 8s. Even if you had 2 pizza boxes, it would still be in 8s. You just might eat more than 8 pieces of pizza. All right, so now we have 9 8s. We're going to have to split this one horizontally twice, partition that horizontally twice. So now we have 9 groups of 3 over 8 groups of 3. So that equals 27 24ths. So these are both equivalent to 9 8ths. So we have 18 16ths and 27 24ths. Those are both equivalent to 9 8ths. All right, and I believe that is all we have for homework. So please, please, please try to do what the book says and succeed. All right, have a good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.